What's up, beautiful people? It's your favorite cousin Rich, back once again. Rich Talks episode 78. Greatly do appreciate y'all for listening. And it's currently Sunday, March 30th, 2025, 12:08 p.m. Did this one a little bit later today. Raining this morning, so I couldn't go out for my walk. But it's all good, though. It's all good. The ego. That's what we're going to talk about. The ego. E-G-O. Ego. The illusion of the ego. Because we have to understand the ego is nothing but an illusion. It's not real. It's a facade. The ego is really here to protect us. Protect our inner self, our inner truth, our inner child. The vulnerable parts of us. That's what the ego is really about. It's funny because a lot of times we think about ego, we think about somebody being egotistical. You know, boisterous, loud, look at me, you know, that type of ego. But ego comes in all shapes, forms, and sizes. Like I said, ego is that thing that you have that protects you. That doesn't allow you to be as vulnerable as you possibly could. Or as vulnerable as you possibly should, you know, in current situations. Is the ego really a facade? Somewhat yes and somewhat no. Sometimes the ego is just that protective mechanism that we've brought about through years of life, through certain environmental factors or friends, families, you know, community, all that type of thing, all that type of jazz. That's that. Or on the flip side, you got something that we inherited in order for us to build up this character that we believe will portray who we want to be in order to protect our vulnerable self. So the ego is not real. Honestly, that's a lot of people's biggest thing, biggest downfall is ego. Why a lot of people can't find love, ego. Why a lot of people can't find purpose, ego. Why people can't live their truth, ego. You know, why people not really living their true life, the life that they truly desire, is ego. You see, imagine if you grew up with a certain mindset about how to treat the opposite sex, right? If you were raised to treat the opposite sex as far as just get what you can get from them. And this is not gender bias, this is just, you know. So this ego that you have created based off of that ideological thinking that you were raised with is how you go about life. So what happens when you run across somebody who internally you feel something for, or you want something more to be than just what you can get from them? You have to let that old self down, that old guard down, that old ideological thinking that you had about how you viewed the opposite sex. Because when it's something that you really want, you have to let that go because you have to be your true self. Imagine you trying to be in a relationship with somebody, but you have that old ideological thinking. So guess what? The ego comes about that, of how you act, how you walk, how you talk, how you handle this person. And because you haven't shed that ego, you keep up this ego or this persona, and that doesn't allow you to be with this new person. It distances you actually from what you truly want. Because as this person wants you to open up or wants to get closer to you, you run back. Because now you have this fear of being vulnerable, of exposing your truth. So you keep that ego up in order to protect you. Is that ego who you really are? Is that ego of thinking that you had about the opposite sex, is that really how you are, how you think, or how you want to think? No. It's just what you've adopted, what you've adapted to. Sometimes for survival, whatever the case may be. Whatever the case may be. So because you have this mindset now, you can't really attract what you want. Or imagine somebody who has the ego of they're too good to work at McDonald's or too good to work at Starbucks or too good to deliver food or anything of that sort. So what do? Nothing. Sit on the couch all day. All right, big dog. So what do? Sit around all day. Nothing. No productivity, no nothing. Because it's that ego that says they're too good to get a job, too good to do this, too good to do that, too good to start from the bottom. So they miss out on opportunities that they could have that could increase them further in life. You have to shed the ego if you want to grow. The ego is like a glass ceiling. And wherever that glass ceiling is placed is how high you can rise until you reach the top. You can see endless possibilities with this glass ceiling, but you can't surpass it. Because that ego won't let you surpass it. It's like even doing YouTube. Recording videos, making content. I even had to put my ego to the side. Oh, it has to look like this, or I have to have this camera, or I have to edit it like this, or I have to, all these preconceived notions and preconceived things I was telling myself to stop me from starting. And then I had to wipe the ego away and live the truth. The truth is, I want to be good at this. The truth is, this is something that I want to do. The truth is, nobody's giving a fuck about you right now. Just do it. Just start. Just jump. It ain't got to be perfect. What it got to be perfect for? What's the need for perfection? What you trying to hide? These are all the conversations I had with myself. Nobody's exempt. And see, that's what I'm saying about even ego. Ego is not just always loud and boisterous. Sometimes ego is just certain things or certain ideologies or thoughts and things or patterns that you have that you based your life on that keeps you. So if I had this ego of somewhat of perfectionist or perfectionism or, I have to be seen in this light or I can't have, or I have to have this type of camera quality or this. If I stayed in that mindset, guess what? I wouldn't jump off the porch. I'd still be at home plate trying to swing the bat. You have to be vulnerable to really get what you want in life. You have to be vulnerable. You have to. And it's not just necessarily like bearing your truth, tearing your truth, telling all your deep, darkest secrets. It's not always that, no. What I mean vulnerable is you have to really be vulnerable with yourself. You have to be vulnerable and say, what do I really want? Who do I want to be? What do I want to accomplish? And then you also have to be vulnerable and say, what are the things that's holding me back? What do I need to let go? What do I need to shed in order to accomplish that? What things do I have in my life that's holding me back? These are the questions and things that you have to ask yourself. This is how you start shedding the ego. What things do I have around me that's holding me back from me living my true life? It could be somebody right now driving a brand new Benz, having a nice ass condo, all the shoes, all the clothes, but is not satisfied. Because to them, they feel like that's the only thing that will give them some type of validation in life, is if they have the car, the job, the money. They feel like they're not validated if they don't have that. That's the ego. But it's another life that they really want to live. They may want to be a work in the rainforest or some shit, or travel the rainforest or some shit like that. Just keeping it real, you know? But the ego won't let them. Because they feel like they have to have the this and the that in order to, you know? Like I said, the ego stops you from living a fulfilled life. Ego of you feel like you're this personality or you're this type of person, so you have to date this type of person. And it's all based off of physicality and all this extra bullshit. Yet if you drop the ego, the person that might be for you is the person that you was never looking at. Yet it's the false narratives and the egos that we keep living in and telling ourselves is, you know, is what keeps us in these traps, in these loops, in these cycles. So is ego necessarily a bad thing? I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing if it's not checked. You know? If it's in a toxic manner, you know, if it holds you back. But it can also protect you in good situations. Sometimes you don't need to always be vulnerable. Sometimes you need to save something for you. Sometimes you need to have a little, you know, confidence, a little cockiness to you. Sometimes you have to. Just keeping it real. Sometimes you have to have a little, you know, pep in your step. This is all done in a righteous manner, of course. The thing is do you know your true self? The thing is, can you release all that? The thing is, can you live your own truth without all that? It's cool to have a nice Benz and you be popping it with all the jewels and the nice shoes and all the nice clothes. It's cool to have all that. But can you strip that and just wear all black? No jewelry, no nothing, no fixings, no nothing. And still feel proud about yourself. Still feel confident about yourself as you did when you was popping and you felt like that man, that nigga when you was in the Benz. This is why people don't love themselves today, because they root themselves in their ego. Again, that's why people don't love themselves today, because they root themselves in their ego. So when they lose all the materialistic items, or they lose their job, they lose their spouse, they lose their this and that, the things that they made them, they don't know their true self. Now they're exposed. Now they're naked. Now they're vulnerable, and they don't know how to handle that. I believe ego could be persona, ego, you know, whatever word you want to interchange it with. It's like, does it have an on-off switch, or is it always on? If you don't know how to turn it off, then you don't know how to really live a real life. Then you don't really know your truth. You're not really living your truth. And deep down inside, if you never really live in your truth, guess what? You're never fulfilled. The ego. Bummer, ain't it? Hey. Anyway, this is your favorite cousin, Rich. I greatly do appreciate y'all for listening. Remember, strip that ego. Know when to turn it on and turn it off. And really live your true life. You know, your fulfilled life. The life that you truly want to live, not the one that was scripted out for you by the people around you. Anyway, this is your favorite cousin, Rich. I greatly do appreciate y'all for listening. Rich Talks, episode 78. Y'all be safe. Love and blessings. Booyah.